We are back with Roger and with Marissa, and we've got some interesting donor numbers that we wanted to dive into with you guys. First of all, there's analysis, I saw it both in the Washington Post and also in the Wall Street Journal, about crossover support amongst the candidates, like whose donors are playing the field supporting other candidates, whose donors are super loyal. They found that Warren leads the way in terms of crossover donors, meaning donors who have given to other candidates and also giving to her campaign. Roger, why is that significant, do you think?
Because when you look at the actual machinery or the actual kind of choreography of how a caucus works in Iowa, if you're consistently a number of other candidates' supporters number two, that is an extremely formidable and strong position to be in when you go into those auditoriums and gymnasiums in Iowa, because that means as various deals are being cut, you're kind of the first default position when people need to make deals and things like that. So just looking at it through the lens of Iowa, I would say that's tremendously encouraging news.
What do you think, Marissa?
I think overall it's kind of interesting to see, Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren just sharing a big bulk of these donors.
Yeah.
What does that mean moving forward? Because in my mind, I'm already starting to think, who would they end up deciding? Throwing your financial support behind somebody, I think, means a lot.
Well, the reason I think it's most interesting is where you just identified, which is that it's the high-income white liberal who is broadly donating to Elizabeth Warren. There are also people who donate to a lot of other candidates who kind of tickle their fancy on whatever issue. Kamala Harris, the first female black, major contender. You have Pete Buttigieg, who's somebody who speaks to you on a very meritocratic, elite level. So to see Warren kind of consolidate a lot of that crossover support is interesting. Bernie Sanders, I think, was the candidate in the least amount of crossover support, which I also find.
It was Bernie and Yang were the two. Bernie was number one and Yang was number two in terms
own
of
their constituencies.
Right.
I think that's the place where I would rather be.
Because that means those people are super committed to you. They're not still playing the field.
Yeah.
They're with you through and through.
Yeah.
Well, this is Warren's kind of theory of the case, which is if she can unite the Joe Biden and the Bernie support with a progressive wing that works as an institutionalist, that she can kind of bring together the cleavages within the Democratic Party. I don't know if that's the best place to be.
You could look at it through the lens of just, they're building a very large, comprehensive organization. The focus is on, I hate cliches, but boots on the ground. So she could come in second in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. And let's say that that's roughly within the realm of possibility, and I think it would be. Possibly win New Hampshire, possibly win Iowa. But then you head into the very deep and the very broad waters of Super Tuesday. And if passes any prologue, she will have the resources and the bodies to truly compete in those 14 or 15 states. And then that is really where, to the extent some of these other kind of second and third tier folks, if they're still in, that is where there's going to be a massive amount of drop off. And then that is where her being so many people's second choice really starts to bear fruit for her.
And I think she's definitely a stronger second choice. Like you said, it's about building out, kind of the campaign and the organization. So I think people may underestimate that as well.
So the other thing I would say here, and this ties into the next donor information that we want to talk about, is I think Sanders and Yang both have brought in a lot of non-traditional donors, people who don't normally give to political campaigns. I know with the Sanders campaign in particular, their number one employer of their donors is Walmart, right? These aren't your typical sort of, let me go to a Democratic event and pony up a check kind of donors. Forbes had this information on the number of billionaire donors by candidate. Surprise, surprise. Pete Buttigieg leads the way with 23. And also, surprise, surprise, Bernie Sanders comes in dead last with zero.
Bernie's always true.
No billionaires given to Bernie Sanders, which of course his people think is fantastic.
I'm sure he would return it. Yeah.
Oh, no, I think the check would arrive and just kind of erupt into flames, just disappear
My favorite clip is him being interviewed at the Washington Post, and which is sponsored. The event was sponsored by Bank of America, and he walked out on the stage. He's like, "This is really sponsored by Bank of America?"
His first comment. It's like, what's up with that?
I mean, the Buttigieg number is the most revealing, right? I mean, he truly is a member of that meritocratic elite.
They love him.
They love the McKinsey Mayor Pete, who signed up deployed to war as a member
Scholar,
of the Navy Reserve, Rhodes Scholar. But at the end of the day,
that
Roger,
swooning bio
this
thing.
guy's got 6% support in New Hampshire. He's at what, number 3, 4 in Iowa, consistently around the 5 to 6% number. This is not Barack Obama. Right?
Well, no one is. Let's be honest.
Fair, yeah.
But Obama excited many of the same people, except, he actually won a statewide race and had a massive organization.
Right,
and more importantly, proved he could take a punch in New Hampshire, which I think in the long run actually was more important than the victory of Iowa. But I mean, his only real chance is Iowa, right? I don't see him necessarily climbing in New Hampshire. I think he's got significant infrastructural challenges in South Carolina, and then the Nevada thing is I just don't see culturally how he kind of ingratiates himself into that situation at this point. So he's got to go all in, just as ultimately all of them do, on Iowa. And it's been really interesting to watch in the last few months. How do people leverage their moment in the sun, right? Because we've talked about this quite a bit. Senator Harris in the debate, even all the way back to Beto and some of his YouTube moments. And also it would be very interesting to see, is this Beto's second bite at the apple? You could make a case. You'd rather have it happen in October than now. Yeah, right. I would actually be purposely not trying to peak too quickly if I was those folks. But the mayor has some challenges. The bio has gotten him this far. He's hired a lot of folks and things like that. But I think, this is a journey that you have to take people on. And I think he got people kind of leaning towards him and kind of wanting like that next chapter, similar to a Senator Harris. And I don't know if organizationally that they've actually captured those moments and really leveraged them to the extent that they could be.
I think this is also kind of a snapshot of how out of touch the, very top elite in the country are with the rest of the nation. I mean, you've got friggin' Michael Bennett getting 15 billionaire donors. When is he even polling at 1% at this point?
Probably just because he's gone to the Aspen Institute the last 10 years.
Exactly.
Anyway,
That's my
there's a couple reasons why these things happen.
Yeah, I mean, Booker, same thing. 18 billionaire donors, and he's, he's cultivated that Wall Street crowd for a long time now. It's paying off for him in terms of numbers, but you're not seeing that results in the polls.
I agree. I mean, I was pleasantly shocked to see Cory Booker with 18 billionaires. That's just not who I pictured coming in second.
And that's not who you want. This is not a list you want to be high on in this Democratic primary.
Absolutely not.
If you go and you poll the Democratic base, this is something that would revile them. And President Obama's great political gift is that he could take Jeffrey Katzenberg and all these billionaires' money and still speak to a white working class voter. In Iowa, we just talked to a Des Moines Register reporter, Obama, Trump. I don't see a Pete Buttigieg appealing to that person.
No.
Except, if he wants to run for mayor of San Francisco, I think he'd probably do fine. But this is not the race that he should be in.
And you know what Sanders would say and has said?
Yeah, I welcome
their hatred.
Yeah, right. He loves that zero. That zero was a marketing campaign for him.
Yeah, I think I posted on Instagram this morning. Guys, great to see you both.
Thanks for you both.
Thank you.
Tomorrow on Rising, we explore more about the Hispanic vote's impact on the 2020 election with the Hill's reporter Rafael Bernal.
And the U.S. issued a new round of sanctions on Venezuela. Latin America expert Lindsay Singleton is going to explain the origins and the impact of those latest actions. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.